Hi, can't get to the phone right now. Please leave a message.
Oh my God, I just drove past God's Love. You know that Triangle Park near God's Love? There's a ton of people out there and it's so cold. They're setting up tarps. They have nowhere to go. Oh my God, they have nowhere to go.
If someone needs help, we're supposed to help them. This very highly individualistic aspect of American society, I think, is at least partly contributing to this issue that we have. You know, there's been so many cutbacks in government help when it comes to mental health, housing, all the social kind of services that are readily available in a lot of other countries that have, far less issues with homelessness than we do. We're the richest country in the world. There's no reason why we should have this many homeless people. If you really look at it, it doesn't make any sense.
The United States has the world's highest number of billionaires. At the same time, it has the highest income inequality among developed countries. The rich are getting astoundingly richer, the middle class is moving into poverty, and the poor are becoming even poorer.
This is American economy. This is American. This is America. Well, let's just put it this way: life hasn't exactly made me a bed of roses. When I was born, I had a childhood. My childhood went to my teenage and my youth and my adulthood, et cetera, and now I'm here. Well, all during this particular course of livelihood and life and hardship and ups and downs, this is the end result. Some by fault, some by choosing, some not ability for me to defend myself against. Say I got things that come that I'm not able to control.
The unhoused include children, adults, including seniors, some with mental health and substance abuse disorders, chronic health conditions, or disabilities. Many are fleeing domestic violence. The point-in-time survey conducted by the United Way in January of 2023 revealed that 164 individuals were unhoused, 40 were living in cars, and 110 were living in shelters or hotels. The 2020 Continuum of Care point-in-time survey concluded that 1,545 people in Montana experienced homelessness on any given day. The Homeless Management Information System provides information about homeless shelters across the state. In Helena, 904 people were served at shelters in 2022. In the whole of Montana, 8,331 people were served. By the public school district count, in the 2022-23 school year, 381 youths were unhoused. By December of the 2023-24 academic year, the number was already at 341. Helena Food Share numbers reveal that 1 in 7 adults and 1 in 5 children experience food insecurity in Helena. In each month of 2022, some 1,500 households were served at Food Share. Nearly every community in America has experienced a dramatic rise in the number of homeless persons. In Helena, Montana, the number has nearly doubled in the past 3 years. So, who are the unhoused in this town?
Who are homeless? It is a wide cross-section of folks. Mostly men. Our statistics show mostly white men in Montana. A handful of Native American folks. A handful of women. But that's our unsheltered population.
It is not easy to assume you understand who is unsheltered. If you think you have an idea of who unsheltered people in our community are, I would challenge you to go talk to some. or ask someone who works with them. We have some astonishingly great people working for nonprofits in this community who work with that population every day. And it's not what you think, it's not what you expect. And I think there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of just, misunderstanding. And I think it is important that we remember that every single one of them is a member of our community. They don't live in a house, they may not have, a mailing address, but they're still among us. They are Helena residents. And I think we need to remember that and think about how we treat our neighbors, whether they're in a home or not.
We are long past the day and age where our unsheltered population is transient. These are not people getting on and off trains. This is our community. These are people from Helena, right here in the community.
And we're not a bunch of strangers that rolled into town on some caravan or whatever. We're your neighbors. We're the ones that are in the pulpits with you in your churches. We're behind you at Walmart. We're on the side of the road when you're driving by. And we're forgotten.
We look at the homeless population, and there's a lot of preconceptions about who makes up that population. And it sort of reminds me of the people on the right wing who are very loud and make so much noise that we think that represents the whole Republican Party, when in fact it's a fringe element. And there's a similar thing that happens with homeless people, that we see people that have perhaps severe mental problems and they haven't been in a home for years, and they act out publicly, publicly being the only place they have to live. And it scares people. And we tend to assume that that is the homeless population, when in fact, most of the homeless population is invisible. They're people that have, for whatever ordinary reasons, have lost a place to live. And so maybe they're couch surfing, or maybe they're staying in a motel briefly, or they've got a shelter that'll let them stay there for a while. But they're mostly families, and there's a lot of young kids, and there's a lot of retired people that their pensions that were perfectly adequate 30 years ago are now completely inadequate, and they can't afford housing. And it just strikes me as really unfair, particularly when you think about people that were formerly middle class and have worked hard all their lives, and they get Social Security and they get a pension, but maybe it only amounts to $1,200 a month. How on earth are they going to be able to find a place to live?
Why has there been such a sharp increase in the number of the unhoused? Among the reasons are low vacancy rates for rentals, the lack of affordable housing, and the lack of mental health and substance abuse disorder support services. Many of these problems are tied to low wages for unskilled labor, to the 2021-2022 historic inflation surge, and to the lack of wraparound services that help individuals who are experiencing homelessness.
I think if you really want to simplify things, you can kind of put folks, the increase at least in folks who are unhoused, into two main buckets, right? We have folks who are being actively priced out of house and home for reasons that everybody living in Montana and paying a rent or a mortgage can understand. Housing prices are going up, rent is going up, and whether it's elderly folks living on a fixed income or people whose wages just aren't keeping up, people are being priced out of that and can't keep up with rent increases. The second bucket is folks who are dealing with those sorts of mental health disorders or substance use disorders. As providers close their doors and there are less and less places to go where somebody who isn't able to pay for high dollar bed spaces, those folks are ending up in shelters as well. And now we have shelters, whether they like it or not, acting as housing and trying to fill the service gap for folks who have mental health disorders that are better served by professionals who are qualified for that. And the last thing I'll add is it's been a long time practice at the Montana State Hospital, which is full and which has some significant issues that the state is trying to address, that when someone's discharged from the state hospital and they don't have a house to go back to, they're discharged directly to homeless shelters.
Many Helena residents are voicing their growing concerns about the unhoused on their streets and in their parks. They see people with severe mental health issues and substance abuse disorders acting out. Feeling apprehensive, we look to local officials to do something substantive to keep our community safe. But what exactly is that? Some homeless individuals use the hospital emergency room rather than urgent care or local clinics. Some intentionally get arrested to use a jail cell as a shelter and thereby take up police time and resources needed elsewhere. Many use numerous social services. All this carries a high cost to taxpayers. Some citizens think these individuals are a public nuisance, and rather than loitering, they should get a job and pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Most of the homeless are not a public threat, despite appearances, but it is frightening to see people drinking and drugging on the streets, in our neighborhoods, and especially where children are present. Many of the homeless are not seen by the public, however, keeping a low profile, struggling in silence. Importantly, not all the homeless want to be homeless.
How do you see the community's reaction to the homeless?
I think it's frustration. I understand the frustration with people, but we also need to understand that it's not just one agency or number, it's a bigger picture that's struggling to meet the needs. I think we need to remember to think about the humanity of people. You know, there are people that get thrown at us all the time. Why don't they just get a job? Why don't they? It's not that easy. And, you know, we've offered to come out and talk to different entities, and, you know, this is what's going on in people's lives. It's a mental health, it's education, it may be environmental upbringing or lack of there for people. And we hear what people are saying, and I'm one of the first ones, if you will, to say, we want to make this a beautiful place for people to live in Helena. And we need to look at both sides of the picture, but let's definitely take into account, let's keep the humanity for people.
Some folks think that they choose this lifestyle. And what I like to say is being unsheltered isn't a choice, it's a lack of choices. And so folks who are homeless, folks who are living on the street, unsheltered, are folks who have often mental health issues, addiction issues, and sometimes both of those things at once. Some have simply fallen on hard times. I feel pretty accurate in saying less than 10% of the folks who are unsheltered are folks who have just adopted that lifestyle. Now, they still may have some mental health or addiction issues, but they just are not interested in moving forward, and they just find a way to make it work.
There's those homeless people that choose not to. They don't change anything. They'll sit, hold signs, and they don't go looking for work or look for the help that they could get to work to change their situation. But there are homeless people who they try and get a job, but because they can't look, aren't able to take a shower or anything like that, they get told no, that like there's no work for them, even though a place. I know several of them who applied to work at Walmart, went in for interviews when Walmart was McDonald's was hiring, and McDonald's said that they couldn't use them. And I feel like that was mostly because of how they looked. Mm-hmm. There are homeless people that have just given up because they can't find a job. Nobody will hire them. But I see a bunch of, there's a good amount of homeless people who are trying. But, and I do believe that they, as homeless people, you get put into the same category as everybody else who's homeless.
maybe stop judging a book by its cover. I know that there's a few of us like me that we're kind of more put together. I mean, I'm kind of more of a political face for them, but I'm homeless too. And there's people that, don't have showers. They don't have clean clothes. And they don't look the part. And there's some people out here that are sober that just don't look like it. And I mean, the discrimination is quite large. I mean, rather than the community physically donate anything, when it comes to it, like economically and socially, like maybe giving us a little bit, less of the stink eye.
To not make assumptions about their situation. It could or could not be their fault, and they could or could not be trying to get help. Just the resources are not available. And yeah, just to try to be helpful to them. Be nice.
So I feel like if we started caring about these individuals who are indeed living on the streets, our jobs will go so much easier, so much better. We can teach them how to be better people and how to actually integrate into society and make all of our lives better. We could also have cleaner streets, cleaner facilities, because we're always cleaning up after them. They just, like I said, don't care because they don't feel like anybody cares about them. Mm-hmm. So I think it comes back to that we just need to choke on our pride a little bit and start caring more about our fellow man. I mean, like I said, there could be veterans that actually served in some war for us, gave up their lives, and now are sitting on a sidewalk with a sign, and we're ignoring them.
And I'm sorry that I'm homeless on the streets right now. I hope I can make it up to the public, and I will, one way or the other. And I'm grateful for their patience and their helpfulness.
I think that nobody wakes up and says, I can't wait to have a substance use disorder and be homeless. That is the life I want to live, right? Like, nobody falls into that because that's their hopes and their dreams. But we do fall into that because of things that have happened to us that we have no control over. And so, how do we help that? So if we fall into things that we have no control over, that's the cause of homelessness, right? Mental health disorders, substance use disorders, poverty, childhood, adverse childhood experiences. Those are the things that cause homelessness. Homelessness is not caused because we give more tents out, right? Homelessness is not caused because we decided to give somebody a minivan to sleep in instead of that tent, right? Like, homelessness is caused because the way that our economy works doesn't work for everybody.
Where are the homeless living? Helena's emergency shelter is God's love. The shelter offers a bed to sleep in if a person has a job or is on disability. God's love can shelter 24 men, 4 women, and 9 families. During the winter months, when the beds have filled, the overflow of those needing to get out of the cold sleep on the cement floor of the shelter. As of this filming, 40 individuals were sleeping on the floor. The shelter also serves 3 meals a day to those in need.
That's what we do the best of, is we do food. So we serve 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we have our own food here, and we get food share that brings in sandwiches and stuff from the stores. And then we have clothing. People donate clothes here all the time, which is great. They donate socks and gloves and hats in the winter. And so the homeless can come down and get pretty much any of the clothes and shoes and everything. And then we do the housing piece. So we'll house men and women, and then we have a family shelter that we run. And then my mom, Ann, runs kind of a financial end that can help people with $20, $30 worth of medical co-pays, to get an ID, Social Security card, bus tickets. Gas vouchers are a big one. Gas is so expensive, so we see a lot of people needing gas.
Other shelters assist women and children. The Friendship Center helps those who are fleeing domestic abuse. The Florence Crittenden Home serves women with babies and very young children. And the YWCA houses and serves women, many of whom are newly released from prison, and their children. The YWCA utilizes a wraparound therapeutic approach for its clients.
YWCA Helena's mission is to prevent homelessness and to provide safe and supportive housing for women and children who are experiencing homelessness. How we do that is we have a licensed substance use recovery program that intertwines with our supportive and full wraparound services for women and children while they are here. We offer what we would refer to as a transitional living program, HUD, which is Housing and Urban Development. So our federal program defines transitional housing as up to 24 months. And the supportive aspects that we do are case management and peer support, mental health therapies. We have licensed addictions counselors on staff. We have group therapies, educational therapies, things like cooking classes and budgeting classes, and really how to live with yourself without substances, and then growing individuals into people who are ready to be safe and secure in our community and independently living.
So where are the other unhoused living? Many are living on the street, sleeping in parks or in parking garages or under the stairs of a church. Some are living out of cars or campers. Others are sleeping in tents on the sidewalk or in the nearby forest. And some more fortunate few are living in motel or hotel rooms. Richard, a veteran who was 76, born and raised in Helena, started work at 15 as a manual laborer and continued to do so until emphysema retired him. He receives $1,200 a month from Social Security and his pension. This is not enough to live on in Helena, Montana. After he was evicted from his residence of 19 years, he was placed into a hotel as temporary shelter using funds from a Montana Emergency Rental Assistance Grant. That grant money has since run out.
This town is terrible. There is no housing. Whatever housing is there, it costs $1,500 or $2,000 a month. That's just for basic housing. And we can't, little people like us, we can't afford that.
For months, Richard panhandled at street corners and at the local post office to get that little extra bit of cash he needed to survive. A good day of panhandling gets him dinner at McDonald's or Slim Chickens.
To begin with, when I first started doing it, I was embarrassed as hell. But as time goes on, you need that money. You need a way to survive, and that works out pretty good. Some days you make a few dollars, and some days you make pretty good money. But it's enough to help you survive from one day to the next.
A 15-year-old woman, Deborah, lived in a camper for 6 months because she couldn't find an apartment that would accept her Section 8 voucher. She moved into a hotel room until she could find housing.
And how do you feel as a person who is homeless? What does that feel like to you?
It's a yucky feeling because it's like you have no place to call home and really relax.
And how do you feel the public
sees you?
If they knew I was homeless, they would take a second look at me.
And do you think that's fair?
No, but they do it anyway.
How does that make you feel?
Yucky.
Yeah.
Jessica told us she was hit by a car in a crosswalk and was in a coma for 2 months and suffered permanent brain damage. She did receive a Section 8 voucher, but could not find a place to rent. She lived in her car for 16 months.
It was very difficult, really difficult. I didn't have a bathroom. There was a park. I parked my car at this park, and the park had a bathroom, and so I would get out and use the bathroom at the park. But like to take a shower, and I didn't have a bed. I was sleeping in my car, taking a shower. There was no shower. For meals, I didn't eat. I was completely malnourished. I weighed about 120 pounds and was completely malnourished. So yeah, living in my car was really difficult.
TC has been homeless off and on for years. He is 58 and has been battling substance abuse for 40 years. When interviewed, TC was in the AWARE program working on sobriety. For the past year, he has been sleeping in a tent.
So tell me what it's like living in a tent.
It's very interesting, you know. I'm a people watcher, you know, and I for me personally, I get along with everybody. Living there, there's some bad seeds, you know. You have your bad apples everywhere you go. There's a row of I think there's 5 tents up there right now. And, you know, there's 2 of them that are actively trying to get off of the street, you know, and one of them is me and another one next door to me. The mayor and the city council, I'm sure, is getting phone calls and complaints, you know, because the people of Helena and the taxpayers, they're wondering why these people are living on the street and in a tent on the sidewalk there where they walk their children up and down, and sometimes there's rough behavior out of a few people there. Yeah. And I don't blame them.
A homeless camp just outside Helena in the adjacent forest housed some 31 individuals at the peak of its 8-month existence. Rad, the camp leader, described the camp as a sober place where people can feel safe and secure, where they can rest their heads, and where their personal belongings are safe. Rad doesn't claim to have made the best choices in his own life, but in setting up the camp, he has chosen to help people get back on their feet.
My name's Rad Monty. I'm a chronic alcoholic. Today I've been sober 3,122 days. The reason I'm here is because I've started a ragtag camp up the Gulch. I have all kinds up there. I've got mentally ill, I've got veterans, I got addicts, and I got drunks. We made the paper and we made the news and we made 2 moves. There's a lot of haters out there that want us out. We don't have nowhere to go. The paper said that we're there for necessity. Fact of the matter is, we are there for necessity.
You know, it's really a lot about gaining our self-confidence back and gaining our self-respect back, because, you know, we made a lot of bad choices and made a lot of, displayed a lot of behaviors and made choices that weren't necessarily right, you know. I try to tell this to my people all the time, where your rap sheet and the things that we've done in the past make him to represent you, but they don't have to define who you are. You can change that, you know. I got neighbors that are saying that there's criminals down here, and alcoholics and drug addicts, and you know, you got me. You got all 3 right here. I'm a criminal. I've been to prison, I've been to jail, I've wasted
countless man hours of taxpayer money going to the police and for housing and the most important thing here is giving back people their self-respect. You know, we're earning our self-respect back, and we're getting our integrity back, and we're getting our honor back. You know, and it might take a while to earn all of your respect, and we will earn it. But we got ours back, and regardless of where this camp goes and what the future is, everybody that's in this camp, if it were to end today, we can walk out of this camp with our heads high, proud, with some integrity and with some decency and some confidence that we finally did something right.
And I've been here trying to figure out things here, and I've stayed sober, and it was the only place I could think to go to where I could also be safe and just everything else.
How does it feel to be living here?
Beautiful. It's a beautiful place. We're all like family. We don't have to worry about anybody stealing anybody's stuff. We all go around making sure everybody's okay. We check in on each other. We have mental illness, whatever. It's just one big family here. We cook for each other. We take turns doing the dishes. We take turns washing the puppies, everything. We take turns on getting trash and filling up waters and who's going down and what we could bring back for the camp.
I've never been homeless before. I have dirt under my nails. It's not me. It's just struggling, trying to stay sober.
Where were you before you came to this camp?
I was in treatment.
Okay, and then treatment?
At MCDC in Buell.
Okay, but they discharged you to...
With no place to go.
Oh.
And I'm in drug court right now, and they're trying to find me housing in other places in Montana.
Because why not in Helena?
I can't get housing here.
Why?
Because of my addiction and everything in the past, I burnt my bridges.
Okay. So the courts are looking for your placement, but in the meantime...
Goodness. I'm out here and I'm working with the courts. Everything's fine. They know what's going on. They check on me every day.
Local resources include the following. Aware Inc. is a mental health clinic that provides telemedicine and telehealth and outpatient treatment and is classified as a community mental health center. It offers couples and family therapy, group therapy, and psychotropic medication. Aware offers treatment to people with PTSD, people with serious mental illness, and people with trauma. Additional services include assertive community treatment and case management. Aware has what are called PACT teams. PACT stands for Program Assertive Community Treatment. The main goal is to provide wraparound services for those with mental illness. Therapy, case management, and vocational training are offered both to those in housing and those on the street. Family Promise of Greater Helena helps homeless families in the Helena area by housing families for night stays at local churches and, in the summer, in Carroll College dorm rooms. Good Samaritan Ministries of Helena offers financial assistance, donated clothing, and personal care items, and connects people to community services. It also runs and operates a day center, Our Place. Our Place's peer support program provides a safe place for people to gather. The center offers classes, recovery services, internet access, mental health referrals, food packets, and blankets. The Helena Housing Authority administers Section 8 housing vouchers. A high number of eligible individuals remain on the wait list to receive a voucher, and even if an individual gets a housing voucher, Helena does not have enough affordable housing to accommodate them. Also, many lessors do not accept vouchers. Bottom line, there are not enough services in town to keep up with the need. Helena lacks sufficient mental health services and substance abuse treatment programs. The lack of affordable housing contributes to the increase in the number of homeless individuals who could and would live elsewhere than on the street, in tents, cars, or campers, were better options available.
And they keep coming up with plans to take us out of town and get us out of sight and sweep us under the carpet. And the fact of the matter is those plans will never work, and they will continue to fail until they become realistic. There's a reason why everybody is sleeping downtown on the sidewalks rather than being somewhere more comfortable, maybe on the grass or whatever. It's because of those services. And you can't take them away from the services that they require. So any plan that's going to take the homeless 20 miles out of town and out of sight, well, then you're going to have to move all those services as well.
So maybe if the community could come together to decide where's a good spot for these individuals where they're not going to be disturbing other members within the community.
But yet are still close enough to the resources that they need to survive.
So what is being done about it? Local service providers are scrambling to find solutions. United Way of the Lewis and Clark area acts as an umbrella organization to connect local agencies and their programs to each other. Move the Dial, led by the United Way, brings people together within the community to talk about solutions to the homeless crisis. Fuse, Frequent Users of Systems Engagement, is a program funded by a grant through the Montana Healthcare Foundation. The grant brings St. Peter's Health, Helena Housing Authority, and United Way of the Lewis and Clark area together to work collaboratively with care teams and community social services to keep frequent and high-need patients on track with their course of treatment, connect them to appropriate community-based wraparound services, and make sure they can either maintain their current housing situation or obtain housing if they are homeless. Organizations such as God's Love provide emergency shelter, 3 meals a day, clothing, hygiene, and feminine products. Good Samaritan Ministries and Aware look at the individual's needs. These nonprofits are on the ground, working with the unhoused, addressing their needs for shelter, food, mental and physical health, and safety. Case managers, housing navigators, street outreach coordinators, and crisis response professionals are all involved in addressing the wider problem. Nonprofits cannot do this work alone. In partnership with policymakers within state and local government, however, progress can be made. Lewis and Clark County and the City of Helena allocate large sums to support local nonprofits that serve the homeless. On August 7, 2023, the Helena City Commissioners voted to allocate $100,000 to efforts to find solutions to help alleviate homelessness in the community. An emergency housing task force working group was formed to work on the problem.
It was an ad hoc group that came together after the allocation that was, convened by the city. It built on the membership of the former housing task force, and the exact title of that escapes me at the moment. But it is members of the nonprofit community. There's also members of the public. County and city commissioners have attended, and they were tasked, I think, with there was an allocation set aside to address a problem we all recognized, so let's come together and see what solutions we might propose. That was their mandate, is a bit strong, but that was the guidance for how the group formed. The priority that the group has chosen to focus on right now is helping get as many people off the street as possible who would like to get off the street. And I think we have to be creative, and I think we need to look at how do we support things like that going forward. How do we make that work? What's realistic? But those are longer term, more complex problems because I think everybody would agree congregate shelters are not the ideal. That is not what many people want. There is a need, and if we can help, particularly with cold weather, if we can help people get off of the street, we start there. We figure out what else needs to be done.
The Housing Task Force Working Group proposed a low-barrier shelter for women to be called Ruth's Place. Low barrier means few restrictions to obtain shelter for the night. Good Samaritan will run the shelter during the cold months, offering a safe place to sleep when low temperatures can be life-threatening. In December, the city voted on a conditional use permit to open the shelter in the same building as Our Place. However, just as the plans to convert the building into a shelter for women were being finalized, the building was sold. Local nonprofits and community members have been discussing where Ruth's Place can now reside. A location has yet to be determined. So what do the homeless really want?
I just want the freedom of my life back. I feel like I'm getting to that point where I don't have, control of my life. I don't feel like I'm in control of it. I feel like the circumstances that govern my homelessness and my disabilities and everything else are what's taking the reins. And I just want my freedom back.
Well, it would be nice to be able to have a home that I could put my head in, lay down, and not have to worry about, am I going to be here today and be gone tomorrow?
Do you worry about that?
Oh, I worry about it all the time. But yet, I don't let it get to me, because if I let it get to me, I would be worse off than what I would just by taking one day at a time.
So, Peter, what is your dream? What would you like to see happen in your life?
My dream would be, a few years ago I had my own apartment. I wasn't, getting depressed or having much issues with my health or mental health. I was happy and content, and I kind of want that back.
This problem has turned into a crisis, and this crisis will continue to grow.
When we were trying to put a guess out on how many are currently living on the streets, we took a best guess at about 250 individuals. That's a lot, but here's the scary thing. And the one thing I've begun to understand is how many thousands in our community are very fragilely housed. They are one incident away from being on the streets, and it really what it kind of feels like right now seems every single day there's 5 to 10 new people that are hitting the streets. I wish I knew what the answers were. I really don't. What it feels like right now is that the problem is so far down the road and the solution's somewhere way back there. But I think what's most important is that community and our community members come together and really meet in the middle on this deal. This is an issue that's not going anywhere, and it really it's going to take our full involvement and everybody working together to understanding that this is really important stuff. My feeling is, and again, I'm not an expert in this, I can't give you numbers, is that we are going to see our unsheltered population grow over the next year.
With the increase in the number of individuals needing services, but not enough people to serve them, what can the average community member do to help alleviate this problem?
I don't know, small acts of kindness are always nice.
Absolutely. The one thing that I think that the community really needs to acknowledge is mental health and substance abuse and homelessness is always going to be around. Yes, it's worse now than ever, but it's always been here. And so, like you said, maybe if it is just a small, act of kindness for us to come together, or just find an area where it won't be a disturbance to other people in the community, or have a little grace for these individuals who, might appear as though they're misbehaving, but maybe they're just struggling with a mental health symptom.
Again, we ask, why should I care?
It kind of comes down to human dignity. I think about, the suffering that is involved in being someone who's living on the streets, not knowing where your next meal is going to come from, the insecurity of getting sick or injured and not knowing how you're going to get medical treatment for that. The temperature fluctuations throughout the year, and, people die every day from heat and cold because they're not sheltered. I mean, even people that are sheltered, let alone people that are exposed to the elements like that. There's just, there's suffering obviously in every life, but to have to go to live for years on the street like that, suffering to that degree, we need to help alleviate that. We need to have compassion for our fellow human beings and not just be comfortable letting them live in such an uncomfortable manner.
Like, we have a choice. We have a choice whether to step up in our compassion or to step back in our fear. And I think the more we choose compassion, the more that we just trust that the inherent good of people, like, if we can just step outside of the frame of fear, I think that we can serve most of our folks with compassion and dignity. And I don't think it would take that much to do. We just have to choose to do it. And I think how we will deal with this crisis will be the legacy of this generation, truly.
So now we ask, how do we care? The issue is so complex. It seems easy to care for those down on their luck due to job losses, medical issues, inflationary economy, low wages, Social Security benefits that do not meet living expenses, and an unattainable housing market. So many of us are sympathetic to those with past issues with the law, especially those trying to stay sober and regain their dignity. For them, getting a job or housing is very difficult. We hear, well, they just got to pull up their bootstraps and help themselves. But the reality is, many don't even have boots. When you have spiraled down so far, it must seem impossible to take that step up. And what of the mentally ill and substance abusers who appear to resist help? Some seem to choose the streets rather than take their meds or give up their addiction. They don't seem to care very much about themselves. So how do we care for them? We don't want to find them frozen to death under a dumpster or wandering our streets shouting and threatening our peace. We need to think outside the box. How do we care and continue to also care about our community's needs? Homelessness will never totally be solved, but can we, as a community, offer a place for those individuals to come in off the streets? Perhaps create a new shelter where services are accessible, a place for them to start their recovery, a return, a place for those resisting to just be, because they are humans. Can we seek solutions outside the box?